There's a ridge out in Clay County, Kentucky, that never gets too many visitors. Not because it's hard to find. In fact, it's visible from just about every field, back porch, and hillside for miles. It's just that no one goes up there, not since the sounds started. Folks call it Carter Ridge, named after an old settler family that vanished sometime around 1904. The Carter boys were loggers, big, strong men who cut deep into the Appalachian woods for generations. One night, they lit up the trees with lanterns, trying to work after sundown. Locals say they heard singing echoing off the ridge that night. Not human singing, not church singing, just slow, breathy whistling, like someone blowing across the top of an empty bottle from somewhere far off, but getting closer. By morning, all 6 Carter men were gone. All that remained was a shivering mule still hitched to a wagon and an axe embedded in a stump so deep no one could pull it out. The sheriff tried to organize a search party. The old preacher said not to bother. He said they weren't taken, they were answered. Decades passed. People avoided the ridge. They told their kids never to whistle in the woods, not even by accident. But you know how kids are. In the fall of 1962, a logging crew from Ohio came to Carter Ridge, unaware of the stories. They set up camp just before dusk. 6 men, radios, whiskey, confidence. At 10:41 p.m., their walkie-talkie crackled. "You boys got anyone else up here? We're hearing something, whistling, slow, real slow. Not sure what it is, but it's getting closer." Then silence. Then, "Whoo, whoo, whoo." That was the last anyone heard from them. When deputies found their camp the next morning, it looked like they'd just stepped away for a moment. Coffee still steaming, boot prints around the fire, but no men. Just 5 axes, each jammed halfway into different trees, all facing inward. And in the middle of the site, carved into a log with something dull, "We sang too loud." Nobody's quite sure who wrote that message or why it wasn't 6 axes instead of 5. Some folks say the 6th man made it out. Others say he never needed an axe because whatever he saw up there, it made him whistle too. People stopped saying the name Carter Ridge out loud. They just called it up there or where the trees breathe, because that's what it sounded like, a slow, wheezing breath moving through the woods at night. Not from wind, from something else. It always started the same way. First, you'd hear it around 2 a.m., that low whistle, like someone trying to mimic a lullaby with lungs full of swamp water. Dogs would go quiet. Crickets would stop. And even your house would feel colder, the kind of cold that came from the inside. The first person who ever recorded it was Miles Gordon, a high school kid from Manchester. It was 1985. He was into weird stuff: pirate radio, cassette hacking, EVP signals. He used to leave a tape recorder on his windowsill overnight. Mostly caught wind, owls, car horns. But one night, the tape clicked on at 2:13 a.m. all on its own. First, static, then a 3-note whistle. Then a silence so deep it buzzed. And then a voice. Not Miles. Not anyone from this world. Whistle back, boy. That was the last tape Miles ever made. He disappeared that same night, window still open, recorder still warm. They found his slippers by the windowsill. Inside one of them, a tooth. Too small to be his. Too sharp to be human. Since then, stories started to spread about voices riding the wind, about figures at the edge of your yard, about hearing your own name whistled through the trees. People swore they never answered, but it didn't matter, because the whistlers don't just hunt, they echo. They loop the sound until someone slips, until someone whistles back. One man tried to fight it. Walter Sims, age 49, heard the whistling outside his home for 7 nights straight. He boarded up the windows. He blasted the TV at full volume. He even tried sleeping with earplugs, a pillow over his face, and cotton in his nose. But on the 8th night, his wife woke to find him standing barefoot in the backyard, facing the trees. He was whistling, not to them, with them. Hoo, hoo, hoo. When she called his name, he turned. But he didn't have eyes anymore. Just 2 long slits stretching back into his temples, like the wind had whistled straight through him. Some say the whistlers aren't creatures. They're infections. They don't grab you, they get inside you, one breath at a time. Don't whistle at night. Don't hum, don't sing, don't even breathe funny, because the moment you echo them, you join the song. Not many folks go up Carter Ridge anymore, but one man did, over and over again. His name was Gene Arlo, a forest warden from 1969 to 1992, served nearly 25 years, never missed a patrol, never lost a map. But he never brought a whistle. After his death in 1998, his daughter, Lydia, found a wooden box in his attic, locked tight with wire and wax. Inside, a rusted compass, a broken cassette tape, and a leather journal. The first page read, "If you're reading this, I probably didn't make it. Don't go looking. But if you hear the tune, you need to know the truth." The journal spanned decades. Most entries were uneventful. Fallen trees, animal tracks, weather patterns. But sprinkled throughout were red ink entries marked with a single word at the top: singing. June 4th, 1973. Saw shapes along the ridge again this night. Not animals, taller, slower. One of them stopped moving the moment I clicked on my flashlight. Not a flinch, just froze. Whistling started 2 minutes later from behind me. October 1979. Found a bird nailed to a tree, head missing. Spiral scratch marks around the bark around it. Trees were breathing. I swear I could see them inhale. April 2nd, 1984. I left a mirror nailed to a tree near the old mine. Came back 2 days later. Mirror gone. But the reflection was still there, in the air, hanging. I could see my own face, but I wasn't blinking. One of the final entries reads, November 7th, 1991. I saw one. I mean, really saw one. Tall, skin like wet bark, mouth sealed shut with thread. Whistles through its throat, not its lips. It walked in circles around a tree until bark peeled off like skin. They don't chase you. They draw you in. They hum until you hum back. One of them wore a ranger's hat. I haven't lost my uniform. Not yet. Lydia tried to play the tape. It only clicked. Once. Then a whistle. Low, high, low, high. Then her father's voice. Faint and dry. I'm still patrolling, baby, but the path don't go in circles anymore. It sings. That night, Lydia left her porch light on. By morning, the bulb was gone. Only a spiral of feathers sat on the windowsill, and somewhere in the distance, the woods sighed. Some believed Jean Arlo was crazy. Others believe he was the last man who ever came back from Carter Ridge with a warning. But nobody questions the final page of his journal. It just says, don't record them. Don't write their song. Every time someone does, the next note belongs to them. There was a man named Doug Perkins. Lived in the trailer on the south side of Clay County just below Carter Ridge. Doug didn't believe in ghosts. Didn't believe in God either. But he believed in radio. Old ham operator, ex-Army Signal Corps. He used to say, nothing evil ever survives a good frequency. That belief didn't last. On the night of August 17th, 2011, Doug caught a strange signal on shortwave band 3.6 megahertz, a dead zone. It started as static. Then, at exactly 3:33 a.m., the signal cleared. He hit record. A man's voice came through, hoarse, whispering, terrified. Please, I didn't mean to. I didn't whistle. They made me. It was in my lungs. I couldn't stop. The voice gasped and started to sob, but it sounded wet, like crying through blood. Then came the first whistle. Low, high, low. Doug leaned in. He wrote in his notebook, single whistle, familiar Appalachian interval, matches Miles Gordon tape. But what came next made Doug stop writing. 4 more voices joined the broadcast, all whistling, perfectly in sync, the same 3-note pattern over and over. Low, high, low. Low, high, low. Low, high, low. Doug's dog started barking, then whining, then scratching at the door, trying to get out, not in. Suddenly the signal spiked. The voices all went quiet. Then a new voice. Female. Calm. Cold. Whispering. We've come to finish the note. Then, low, high, low, high. Doug's radio burst into flames. Literally. The plastic melted, the antenna snapped. He called his brother frantically and told him, don't tune in, don't listen. They're not broadcasting, they're looking. Doug was found dead the next morning, lying face down beside his ham setup, eyes open,
mouth sealed shut, glued tight with pine sap and ash. The coroner said he suffocated, but his lungs? They were full of wind. The tape survived, and if you play it back right around minute 7, you can hear something that nobody added. It's faint. You need headphones, but it's there. Your own name, whispered through the static, and then the sound of breathing. But not your breathing. Someone else's. Breathing in. Because that's how it starts. Not with a scream, with a whistle, a breath, and the need to finish the song. Low, high, low, high.
The old folks say there are only 3 rules when it comes to the whistlers of Carter Ridge. But that's not entirely true. There are more. They just never wrote the rest down. You probably already know the first 3. Never whistle after dark. If you hear them, pretend you don't. And if they come close, never finish their song. But here's what the locals don't tell you. Because maybe they're afraid. Or maybe they don't remember anymore. Rule 4. If you record the whistle, something else gets recorded with it. And it doesn't stop at audio. Some say old cassette tapes melt after a few nights, but others say they grow, stretching with new recordings no one ever made. A laugh, a door creaking open, your own voice saying something you never said. Rule 5. If you dream about the ridge, you've already been there. You might think it's just a nightmare, but that ache in your feet, that pine sap on your bed sheets, that's not a dream. That's the walk back. Rule 6. When the whistling stops, that's not peace. That's the breath before the final note. If you feel calm all of a sudden, if the woods go silent, don't celebrate. Run. People ask, what do they want? They don't want blood. They don't want your soul. They want your breath. They want your lungs to carry the melody. They want you to become another voice in the night, another set of lips that never move, but always sing. That's why no one forgets Rule 7, the last one. Don't ever whistle alone. Because if no one's around to hear you, you won't know if that echo is yours or theirs. And if you ever hear this sound, low, high, low, and feel like responding, just remember that last note doesn't belong to you. It belongs to whatever's behind you.